So if you don't know what this is a Subaru WRX STI, and it is the Type RA edition. Very special car. This belongs to a good friend of mine. You might have heard of him. His name is Joe Rady. He has a YouTube channel, Rady's Rides. He does a lot of reviews, and he's very much a car guy. Can you see what the problem is here? I'm not going to say anything at first. I'm just going to let you pipe in and tell me what you think the issue is here. So let's look at it from a slightly different angle. That is a carbon fiber roof. Look how cool that is. And then, of course, the spoiler matches. Very, very cool, very special car to have a crooked exhaust. So I'm going to kind of describe what I'm showing you here. I think you kind of got it. I showed you outside, but I'm going to kind of draw it and tell you what we're seeing here, and then see if we can fix it. It's kind of a shame, because obviously if you buy an exhaust and you're in your driveway, there's only so much you can do, and if it doesn't look right, it doesn't fit right, you know, it's kind of an advertisement for their exhaust as well as your car. So if it doesn't fit right, it stands out and it's not a good look. Now we got it up in the air, I'm going to kind of show you what's going on. These tips right here, each one of them is a clamp-on design. You see it right there. This won't go back any further. It hits the weld right there. It's touching the weld. There's nothing you're gonna do to shove that any further back. This was the one that stuck out the most. This one over here, the distance coming out it likes, but you see this, the whole thing is rotated counterclockwise. You can't bring this one down separately to this, because each one of these is clamped on. This is welded on. This is welded on slightly crooked. This needs to be twisted this way, and then these two tips together will twist at the same time. This angle here, it's coming out like I mentioned. There's a gap here. There's no gap here. This joint is basically welded wrong. I think if we cut this weld off, straighten these two tips, get them level. This is the distance from the bumper that he wants. We just need to match this. The only way we're going to do this is to cut this weld and cut this back. It's not huge, but like I mentioned, it isn't something you're going to do in your driveway, which it really sucks, because then you're stuck rolling around like this. So the rest of it is okay. And again, it's made in a fixture, but it obviously moves in the fixture, and nobody caught it, nobody checked it, and it doesn't have a car to be checked on until you get it. So there we go. Let's get on with this. We'll show you what it looks like.
Someone lost the nut on that one. Get it.
Never really been a big fan of these clamps, but they are for production purposes. But when we do these, we don't want it pointing this way. We don't want the nut sticking out. So what we're going to do is turn these around and put them like this, and put it pointing that way. So when you look at the back of the car, it looks like this. So it's a bit more acceptable. This side is now correct. We've made this one fit. These tips are still loose. They've got to be tightened up, but we've basically remade this back section. If it was up to us, we'd just remake the whole thing. I mean, we're just not excited about the whole thing, but Joe's a friend, and I'm trying to take care of him on this one, so we're not going above and beyond what we have to. This pipe really should be over here and straight. I'll show you a quick picture in a minute from the bottom, but he's not going to see that, and I know he ain't really going to want to go that crazy, and these guys are not going to help him out with this, so we're basically doing this as a buddy deal. So this one is where we need it. This one, as you see by the angle there, this one is off. They were kind of twisted with the tips to make it right, but we're going to straighten that. And of course, this one is the one that stuck out about 1.5 inches. Now that one is where we need it. Same thing, we're going to cut this and probably take, I'm guessing, probably 3/8 of an inch, or 4 kilograms for you Canadian guys. That's the amount we had to cut out of this side just to get these tips so they would come back enough. So now, not only have we lined everything up, the little bolts on here, as you see, they kind of bottom out, so they're no longer clamping enough. We straightened everything the way we wanted it, and then we put a small bead on each tip to put it where we need it, and that way it's not going to just rotate over time. This is all on rubber hangers, so it will move. So what you have to do is kind of balance it out and make sure that it settles in the correct position. But let's go down on the ground now. We'll take a look. But that makes such the difference. You can only see this part, so for us spending all that time, like I mentioned, it wouldn't be worthwhile, and it isn't something I want to do for something that isn't going to be seen. But that's one of the reasons we build our own exhausts, to make them exactly perfect. Now we're right. And again, you got to balance all of these out. We're not trying to get this within a thousandth of an inch, because you got to remember the bumper will have variances to it, but the whole exhaust will flex around on rubbers. But you got to try and get it where everything looks as close as possible, so visually it looks right, because the way it was before was just absolutely terrible. So that is something you'd never be able to do without cutting and welding, but now it's as close as we can get it. I'm going to go ahead and call Joe. He is right up the road filming, so we should see him here in a minute.
Here we are at LHT Performance, picking up my 2018 Subaru WRX STI Type RA. It's a mouthful, but you know what? Bringing it here after I had exhaust put on, wasn't fitting right. I knew that there was somebody who would be able to perfect it as if I did it myself. The quad tips.
It's right now, right?
It looks
not
right as rain,
bonkers.
right? Isn't that the saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Right as rain.
Yeah. Well, we kind of think alike, like we said. You wanted it right, so that's as right as I think we can get it.
Outstanding.
I appreciate it. Thank you again for bringing it here. And here's Laurie behind the camera.
Laurie, videographer, production manager, Radies Rides.
That's
this
it.
is where Radies Rides go. We go to LHT Performance.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. Awesome. Thank
We'll
you, guys.
see you on the next ride.
Absolutely.